So hello and welcome to
Perfect.
yet another episode of Live from Thrive on how to thrive in times of uncertainty and insecurity. My name is Ketki Sood and I will be your host for this series. I have a question for you. Which emotion do we experience as a response to an immediate threat? Fear, right? And it's something that comes so automatically and it's so ingrained in human beings. The moment that we see or experience something new that is big or scary, that's what we experience, fear. So that's from humankind, from mankind, that we've been used to experiencing and demonstrating fear. And today our guest will share insights on how to actually use or in fact embrace fear for our own personal growth. So we have Sonia Sarina, who's going to introduce herself first and also talk about this very exciting topic today. So welcome, Sonia.
Thank you, Ketki. Thank you so much. I feel so grateful and so honored to be here today. Thank you so, so much. And see all your lovely faces that are listening to this episode. I'm actually from Nidwalden, so all the ones from Zurich and Basel, fellow Swiss German people. I live in the canton of Vaud at the moment. And I work as a coach. I use something that I call the reconnection method, which is based on self-inquiry to really empower every individual to find its resources and to just reconnect with its own past and soul and use that to be successful in life, basically. And I also work as a past life regression therapist, which is a little bit a different field, but also super interesting. Yeah, we're in super weird times, I would say, at the moment. It's nothing that I need to repeat. We've been living it all in all different parts of the world. And when Ketki asked me to join us today, in my head, it immediately went, oh yeah, I really want to talk about fear, because that was the emotion that I felt was mostly coming up for people that I was talking with or that were reaching out to me or sending me all kind of links and theories about why this pandemic, and just so much information. And at the base of it all, I could feel there was always a fear. And I feel like Ketki said, fear is the first and automatic response to something that is unknown. And then I feel like there is kind of two ways people are parting. One is we're suppressing it completely because we kind of realize, okay, that's some people say a low vibration emotion or just an emotion that's not very comfortable. So we put ourselves into the empowered, positive, like I'm not scared about this, and try to find our resources, but I call it suppression. And then some people can identify with the fear and go in a circle that goes a little downward. That's like the identification with fear, where we feel it, but we're not really aware that it's just a physical reaction. It's actually something that we can use as a tool for growth. So I would like to kind of bring together both those ways of one where we realize we're fearful and we don't know what to do with it, so we suppress it. And the other where we don't realize we're fearful, but we are fearful, but we don't know how to get out of it. And to use it as a tool of growth, of personal development, we have to start with awareness. It's like this magical word, and it's really simple because it just means to become aware that there is an emotion that we may label fear, or maybe it's just questions. It can be questions if you're self-employed about how am I going to earn my income, how I'm going to find my clients, for people that, that are influenced at the moment with the shutdowns all over the world. Or it can be something really deeper, as in you have maybe a family and you're not sure about your financial future, and it's maybe just a question. You're not even realizing that it's a fear. And I think when we can start with awareness, so we kind of go, okay, the next time I have a question or a fear coming up, I'll just pause a minute and go, I label it, and I can say, okay, there is fear, or there is an emotion, whatever we call it. And once we have that, it's like we have the starting point. And from there, we can go into self-inquiry. So I don't know how much you know about self-inquiry, but self-inquiry is a rational analytical tool on one side, and it's mindfulness and kind of, I would almost call it meditation on the other side, because with our analytical mind, we are asking ourselves questions, and then with our more like intuitive mind, we wait for the answers. Like we don't need to figure everything out. We just ask the right questions to ourselves. And like that, we get like a roadmap of where we're at and where we can go. So if we take fear in this situation at the moment, this pandemic, we can start exactly awareness, fear, what is it that I'm scared of? And then just kind of go into those, I would always call it visualizations, like our theater in our head that makes up stories all the time anyway. We can actually, when we do it with consciousness and we're aware of what we're doing, we can allow the theater to play out a little bit. So we can ask ourselves the question, what am I scared of? What's the emotion that comes up? And then we can allow ourselves for a short amount of time while we're sitting and writing or meditating and go, okay, this is what I'm scared of, what could happen. And I hope you can already see, if you follow me maybe visually in your head, that we're starting to create a roadmap of where we are at. And I really see it visual, as in I'm standing here and in my head, I'm starting to make up all these pictures and I see all the little roadblocks that are making me scared, and for a good reason, because these are the, in Swiss German I would say Baustelle. So these are the how do you say that in English?
I think it's
roadwork.
The barn, right?
The barn.
Where
Le
put all the
chantier.
hay for the- Celine has a translation.
Yeah, I thought roadworks.
Yeah, it could be roadworks. Yeah, it could be roadworks, or when you build a house or whatever.
Right.
About that.
Construction site.
Yeah, the construction sites. Now we got it. Yeah. So you start to see what I call the construction sites, that are the little area around. It can be anywhere in your life. You know, that emotion brings up the construction sites where there is something missing usually, and it can be a resource, like an emotional resource that is missing, or it can actually be a material thing that is missing. It can actually be like this pandemic it's very clearly, okay, when we all went and got, well, not all of us, but most of people went and got toilet paper and food and extras. And that for me would be like awareness, fear. And one of the construction sites could be, I live somewhere where I don't have enough stock to survive on my own for a month. And I realized that the system is crumbling and I depend on something that I actually can't control. And it's so natural and so good that fear comes up and shows us you're not 100% safe there. And if we go into self-inquiry and we realize, oh, actually, I don't feel safe because I don't trust the system, because I'm not sure I'm going to have enough food and I need that to survive and I have an interest in surviving, then we can start to take precautions and go, all right, well, I'll go and get some food. Obviously, we can do it a little more intelligent than what happened. And we can question about the toilet paper if we really need that or not. But it shows us the construction side, and it shows us where we can take action on a material side, but also on an emotional empowerment side. Sometimes it's just resources that are missing. For example, again, I'm connecting with the pandemic because that's why we're talking, right? A lot of fear that was connected directly with the virus, for example. So I talked with a lot of people, and I asked one specific friend who actually went into self-isolation very early. I wanted to visit her in Lausanne. I think it was 3 weeks ago. And she said, don't you dare to come to Lausanne. I was like, why? And she's like, we have to self-isolate. This virus is really, really dangerous. And I was so calm. And then I said to her, well, okay. And I listened to what she said and understood. And I said, well, if you caught the virus, would you actually know what to do before you need to go to the doctor? Like because she's a healthy person, so she doesn't need to go to the emergency. And she looked at me and she said, actually, I don't. And that is a really good example for when we start to fear and we do the self-inquiry and we get to the question, like, what am I missing? What am I scared of? And we're like, I'm scared of the virus. I'm scared of catching it. And then we can go deeper and it's like, I actually don't know what to do if I catch it. So there we have our construction side, and we can go, okay, now let's take action. Now let's maybe call someone that I know that knows what to do. Don't go to a doctor in that moment and call for tips, but there is the internet, you know, everything is there. We can really look into things like, what are the basic steps that I need to take, and we can take action and go out and use it. And what it does is, when we realize that we have a fear, we make our roadmap, we find the construction site, we overcome it. That is empowerment. Like in that moment, we took an original, very primal emotion and we analyzed it, we became aware of it, and we empowered ourselves to take action to overcome it. That is pure empowerment. And what it does is, in that moment, we feel more trust in ourselves and in our resources and in our ability to react, which long term leads to less fear. You're all following, I hope. Ketki, what do you think so far?
I think for me, it's something which, I think we're so overpowered with the fear usually that I kind of lose track. And so I think it's in that moment of having to make the switch of self-inquiry, because I think that can be quite empowering, as you rightly said. I don't know what others wanted to say as well.
Yeah, it can be it can be really challenging, like you say, because it's so primal, and the reaction, the fear reaction, can be so physical that our brain is actually not able to go there yet. But that's where awareness comes in, and consciousness, because right now, if we're all leaving today with just that little bit of information, that the next time an emotion that feels to me like fear, or a question that feels to me like fear, I'm going to become aware, we already started something here that we can remember. And the moment you are in that emotion, there might be just a tiny little thing that tells you, hang on, that is fear. And the moment we hear that, just breathe, close your eyes, be in the moment for a minute. And that's all our brain needs, like a few breaths, 2-3 breaths of just quiet. And that's all the brain needs to be able to go further and to go into self-inquiry. But it starts with the awareness, with the intention of the next time this comes up, I just want to be aware. Don't have to go the whole way. We don't have to go to the end. We just need to start with the awareness. And then we can overcome that physical reaction that is just so deep and so useful, the fight and flight.
Fantastic. Okay, I just have a quick question on that.
Yes.
About once I realize it and I've taken a deep breath and hopefully I'm calm, what I mean, in my situation, it takes me more than actually a couple of minutes, but I'm just wondering what in your experience have you done as a next step?
Yeah, so it depends on the situation. If you are somewhere where you're not able to put everything down, sit down and start a self-inquiry process, just put everything on hold. Just tell yourself, okay, I noticed this emotion, you're a bit calmer, I'll get back to it later. That already allows you to function. You suppress it for a minute. That allows you to function, to continue your day, and then you just have to really get back to it. And the moment you realize it, then you ask yourself the first question, which is very simple. What am I feeling? What am I feeling? What's going on? And the words will come up. It will come up. And then you start this theater. You start to go, okay, what am I scared of? What is the fear? And you go there and you start to go, what's missing in the little construction sites? And once you have everything, and I usually do it written. So I would really advise everybody to do a written thing. So really write it or draw it, however it comes up. And when you find you have the map of everything that's there that makes you so fearful, then you go into your own resources. Or you call a friend or a mentor. That's really helpful in that moment. And you just lay out your roadmap and say, that's what I'm scared of. This is where I'm stuck. Please ask me the questions. How can I go further?
Wow, fantastic. I think that's super helpful. And I think just taking a minute to recenter and repurpose our situation is super powerful, as you rightly said. So thank you for this very valuable insight, Sonia. We are heading to the end of this episode of Live from Thrive. As some of you have already been part of these sessions, I would encourage you to check us out on LinkedIn. We have more information. Sonia will also share some interesting additions to what she already started talking about on the LinkedIn group. So I really encourage you. And I see some already quick reactions. Celine, thank you very much for the applause.
Thank you.
Hopefully you like what you're hearing. Actually, we'd love to hear on the LinkedIn group of what other topics interest you. So, feel free to post those as well. And stay tuned for tomorrow. We have another exciting episode of Live from Thrive at the same time, same link of Zoom. It's called And Now, the importance now of a growth mindset on a bio, psycho, and social level with Linda Heffernan.
Oh, wow.
Looking forward to seeing you all. And thank you once again, Sonia.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.